This is News 13, an exclusive channel provided by Bright House Networks. All local, all the time. You're watching News 13 with Janelle Jordan and meteorologist Danny Trainer. This is News 13, your weekend morning news.
Security stepped up in New York and the nation's capital right now, all because of a new terror threat against the U.S. And this morning, we've learned new details about the possible plot just one day before the 10th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Good morning, everyone. I'm Janelle Jordan. We'll let you know how Central Florida is responding to that threat coming up. Also making headlines on this Saturday, another attempt this morning to get a historic mission to the moon off the ground from the Cape. NASA looking to launch a Delta II rocket. And the second launch attempt just this morning is coming up in just a few minutes. Of course, as we've been telling you, winds caused that first attempt to be scrubbed. Danny Trainer joining us live from the Weather Center with the latest. And Danny, boy, those wind levels just keep going back and forth, really.
I know. Shame on them. We should go over there and tell them to stop it. And you know, green means go. And right now they've got a green light. So it's looking very good here. All we got to do is hang in there for like, what is it, 8 more minutes, and then bingo. We've got ourselves some new satellites on their way to the moon. There you see the beautiful blue skies. You should be noting that, too. It's going to be a nice day on the east side of the state. Not so much on the west side of the state. As you can see right here, we've got rain showers trying to push in. Actually, some of them have attempted to make it into Sumter County, and I think folks over around Coleman and areas like that, you may not be having the prettiest of sky conditions. We've got a mixed sky over Orlando right now, and look at that potential source of trouble out there in the Gulf of Mexico. You want to keep an eye on that because it may interfere with your plans for the day. I think tomorrow's a little bit better day. I think it's a little bit drier. I don't think there's as much rain chance, and the temperature might go just a little higher. Right now we're sitting at 74, 73 degrees around a lot of the area. It's 75 in Melbourne. Melbourne's also got a west wind. That's not a cool breeze off of the ocean. Speaking of ocean, the water temp's about 83 degrees in case you want to stick your toes in today. Don't go up above your knees, though, simply because those rip currents are still there. 90 degrees, scattered showers and thunder showers. 74 is the overnight low, and there'll be a lot of clouds around and maybe a drip or two of rain. Tomorrow, though, we're trying to get back into the 90s with 93 degrees. Yeah, we don't have fall coming our way anytime soon. So anyway, Janelle, it looks like a really, really nice day, but you got to go east. Don't go west. Okay. And we got a rocket on the east side.
Yes, indeed. And let's go ahead and get right to the very latest on the rocket situation. As I mentioned, the first attempt had to be scrubbed because of those winds, but NASA right now still hoping to get that Delta II rocket off the ground this morning with 2 new satellites on board to study the moon and the Earth. News 13's Margaret Kavanaugh is live near the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station's launch complex this morning, where she has been all morning long watching those conditions. And Margaret, right now at 9:03, I understand things are still a go for 9:08. Is that what you're hearing?
Yes, Janelle, we are in the green right now. We just were listening to an update just a few seconds ago. 9:08, the next attempt is what we are looking at this point. You can see the rocket behind me right now. All morning they've been going back and forth between red and green because there have been some issues with upper level winds, and that was also the problem during the first attempt, which was scrubbed on Thursday. Then Friday, that second attempt was also postponed as crews were conducting tests, making sure all their systems were in order. Now, scientists have been getting ready for this day for more than 4 years. The main goal of this mission to gather data and information about gravity on the moon. Now, people have been studying gravity and trying to understand the moon for hundreds of years, but they say there's still a lot that we don't know, and this mission will take 3.5 months to get those satellites up to the moon, which is, of course, the Earth's closest neighbor. Now, scientists that I've been speaking with out here say those satellites will map the gravity of the moon, which will then explain more about the crust all the way to the core, and which will give them a better understanding of overall evolution. Now, an amazing sight out here right now. Many people very anxious and hoping that this does go off in just a few minutes, but right now we are looking good for that 9:08 launch attempt. Janelle.
Yes, again, 4 minutes away right now, Margaret. We are looking at live pictures again from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station this morning. If you are just now joining us, Launch Pad 17B, where NASA and the United Launch Alliance, they're hoping today they're going to be able to launch finally this Delta II rocket up into space after several days of delays. And Margaret, you know, really this has been a real problem for them. As you mentioned before, Thursday delayed because of weather twice, and then yesterday they decided to go ahead and do some testing, and then to have it scrubbed again this morning, this being the second today. It seems like they almost cannot get this thing up.
I know, Florida weather, right? We're used to dealing with scrubbed launches and things we can't control right out here, but so far no technical issues, and that launch window actually extends until October 19th, so there's still very more dates when they could send these satellites up to the moon. But right now we are still looking good for that 908. We were just listening to some updates just a few moments ago where they were running through tests and saying that things are looking good at this point right now. A lot of people out here, as you can see, there is people taking pictures, media out here right now, but many people very anxious and very excited to eventually, hopefully, see this go off in just a few minutes out here. Now, there's actually a camera on board. There's a camera on board that for the very first time designated specifically for students to be able to use. Now, this is being run by Sally Ride, Dr. Sally Ride. She is the one behind this project. There's actually people out here that we will be speaking with later this morning to talk about that camera and talk about how this is going to benefit students. But this is actually the very first time that they've done something like this. Now, the experts out here also tell me that once you eventually see this rocket go up into the air, it's going to be traveling about 1,000 times as fast as you would be driving out on the highway. Just to give people at home a little bit of an idea of the speed of which it will be heading up into space, into sky. Now, they've been working on this for years. So much has been going into it, and after these few delays, I know a lot of people very hopeful that this will happen in just a few minutes. Janelle.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, 1 minute away now, 9:07. If you are just now joining us, again, we're just 1 minute away from the launch of this Delta II rocket that we've been waiting on. We did have the first launch attempt actually scrubbed this morning. I'm wondering if we can hear them at all right now. I certainly don't want to talk over them. Can we get the audio up so we can hear what's happening?
RCO report, range go for launch. Range go for launch.
Okay,
Janelle,
actually it looks like, I apologize, Margaret, it looks like it's 9:08:52, so we're still just a little bit away from the actual launch. Let's talk a little bit while we do wait for that countdown to begin. The rocket itself, you know, has 2 satellites on board that will orbit the moon, sending back critical data, historic data, really. It's going to be fascinating once this thing does get up in the air.
Yes, that is what they say. You know, they say studying the gravity on the moon gives them a lot more information about the actual evolution, and that they say is the best way to study it. Let's take a listen right now as to what NASA officials are saying at this point.
30 seconds. Got it. 22 seconds. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 13 seconds. 11. 9. 11. Green board.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of the Delta II with Grail on a journey to the center of the moon.
Chamber pressure rising in all 6 grounded solid motors. Good chamber pressure on the main engine. Good chamber pressure on both verniers. Good chamber pressure on all 6 groundlet motors. 20 seconds into the flight. We have 29 seconds. Mark, 29 seconds. Mach 1. Vehicle now going transonic. 35 seconds in. 38 seconds in, max Q, maximum dynamic pressure in the vehicle. coming up on the 45-second mark. Mark, 45 seconds in. Altitude 3.4 nautical miles. Downrange distance 13.4 nautical miles. Velocity 1,742 miles per hour. Up on the 1 minute mark. Mark, 1 minute into the flight. Standing by for solid motor burnout about 10 seconds from now. Pressure decreasing in the solids. Standing by for burnout. And we have burnout. Standing by for SEP. And we have separation. And we have ignition on the 3 airlet motors. The 3 airlet motors have come up on chamber pressure. Chamber pressure on the airlet motors. 1 minute, 39 seconds into the flight. The Delta vehicle now only weighs about 1/2 of what it did at launch, expelling propellant now at the rate of about 2,700 pounds per second. 1 minute, 50 seconds in. Altitude now 21.8 nautical miles. Downrange distance 51 nautical miles. Velocity 4,493 miles per hour. About 30 seconds now remaining on our 3 airlet motors. Chamber pressure is beginning to decline. We have a good engine control in the main engine, good engine control in the verniers, settling down from the initial launch transients. Standing by for burnout of the 3 airlet motors. And we have burnout. Standing by for separation. And we have separation. Separation on the airlet motors. Now 2 minutes, 50 seconds into the flight. Altitude now 41.7.
Yes, we just saw the rocket blast off. An absolutely gorgeous sight. We're actually just a mile from where that just took off just a second ago. You can hear NASA speaking in the background, NASA officials talking about it, and we do look like so far things are looking good with that liftoff that just happened just a few moments ago. And it's going to take them actually 3.5 months to reach the moon, so they still have a long journey up there. And the people that I've been speaking with out here said, you know, jokingly that it will be taking the scenic route up to the moon, as it does take a lot longer than it would normally when we have sent astronauts up there in the past. But they say they're doing that there's not that rush when you have astronauts on board. There's an issue of safety, and you don't want to have them up in the air longer than they have to be. But for this, they can take their time and just move at a speed in which they feel comfortable with, and making sure they say there's just different safety regulations when you have astronauts on board and when you don't. But an absolutely gorgeous sight out here this morning. I know a lot of people very happy and very relieved, myself included, to see it go up this morning for that second launch attempt that they did make at 9:08. Successful thus far that we are seeing out here, but absolutely gorgeous. Janelle.
Yeah, it looks so nice. It was really surprising, actually, at least to me, that those upper level winds were again a problem. But thank you so much, Margaret. News 13's Margaret Kavanaugh reporting live this morning. Again, if you are just now joining us, we just saw a Delta II heavy lift rocket headed into space. As far as we know, everything is successful. That rocket has as Margaret mentioned, 2 new satellites on board that will orbit the moon. A very historic flight, really, sending back critical data on the moon's crust and core. And we're, of course, going to follow the latest on this mission. I understand we do actually have a recap for you, and we're going to go ahead and again reset. We'll bring you new details on the mission coming up at 9:30. But right now, if you are just joining us, let's go ahead and replay that for you.
3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of the Delta II with Grail on a journey to the center of the moon.
Chamber pressure rising in all 6 grounded solid motors. Good chamber pressure on the main engine. Good chamber pressure on both verniers. Good chamber pressure on all 6 grounded motors. 20 seconds into the flight. We have 29 seconds. Mark, 29 seconds. Mach 1. Vehicle now going transonic. 35 seconds in.
So again, a Delta II Heavy rocket headed into space. Third time's a charm. Again, as we've been telling you, this thing has been delayed for a couple of days. Was scrubbed this morning, but now successfully launched into space. Stay with News 13 for the latest.
Up on the 1 minute mark.